It is Thursday, July 11th. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. As always, we're fired up for today. Glad you're here with us. We have some breaking news. We kind of did one of those days where we go into the day thinking that our lead is one thing, and then an hour prior to showtime, we change things, which is why we're running just a few minutes behind for those of you who are in our live chat. Thanks for your patience. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And S Jamal Adams is off the market. That is your breaking news. The Ravens had him in for a visit, as we know, at least reportedly, back in May, and he's now signing with the Tennessee Titans. So what that means for the Ravens, who's still left out there, and much more coming up on that. We will revisit our conversation yesterday with Don Wink Martindale, former Ravens defensive coordinator, the incoming defensive coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines, going back to the college ranks where he began his career. So he had some really interesting insight on a number of things, but also called BS on a Lamar Jackson narrative that I think a lot of you will appreciate. Rich Eisen, kind of in response to the ESPN rankings that we know are positional by positional here, that are from anonymous NFL executives that Jeremy Fowler puts together on an annual basis. Rich Eisen ranked his top 10 running backs, and I think you'll also enjoy where he has Derrick Henry and sort of the statement that he makes and the call to action for those around the NFL. So I know you have some information as well in terms of quick hits from a positional ranking standpoint, but it's going to be a packed one.
Going to be a packed one, starting with the safety news. As you said, Titans went ahead and signed safety Jamal Adams. I've seen a lot of cheering in Ravens Twitter because a lot of people didn't want him. He's obviously fallen off in his career, and they've seen him not as a fit, not for what the Ravens would usually do with the three safety looks. So a lot of people cheering to know that he's off the market. To see him go off the market before some of the other free agents tells me that a certain guy, maybe named Justin Simmons, I have got to believe that his asking price has got to be high for people to continually pass over him. But like I said, it takes Jamal, who was in for a visit with the Ravens. He's off the list, and we still don't know for sure that the Ravens are going to sign a safety. I think they should. And I'm reading some tweets from Jeff Zrebeck, Bobby. It sounds like they've been in touch with more people than Jamal Adams.
Aha. I saw that in the slide, which I believe you had right in here coming up in just a second. While we bring that up, here's Wink Martindale yesterday on what he sees still left in Jamal Adams.
Yep.
I think Jamal is a linebacker now. With all the different injuries he's had, but he can still play in space. Don't get me wrong, but he's more of a, he's been his whole career an in-box type safety. Yeah. Not a guy that plays with a whole lot of space awareness.
More from Wink coming up in just a bit, but here's that tweet exchange that you referenced a second ago with Jeff and a fan.
Well, there's before that one, which I just barely saw this. I would have put it in there, but a follower of Jeff's asked him, have the Ravens shown any interest in Justin Simmons? Seems like an ideal Stone replacement, assuming the money is right. Jeff replies, they've been in touch at different points with all the available safeties. Okay. So obviously that includes Simmons. And then here on the screen, a fan, Ethan, asked Jeff, does that mean Simmons is a Raven? With the praying emojis to Jeff. And Jeff says, well, it depends if his price comes down low enough and he'd be comfortable with the role in Baltimore. We've seen this movie before. So listen, we can all be cheering that Jamal Adams is gone. That's fine. That certainly doesn't mean that Simmons is going to be there. And again, my takeaway to keep seeing Simmons passed over for other people, it clearly isn't because Jamal Adams is better than Simmons. Simmons, as we have here on this previous slide, he's the best free agent left on the market. He's 30 years old. He's coming off a season in which he had 70 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 8 passes defended. He earned his third straight second-team All-Pro selection last year, as opposing quarterbacks targeting Simmons had just a 58.4 passer rating. So, Bobby, I mean, Jeff brings up a good point. I mean, we can all sit here and say, "Oh, this 3 safety duos too group would be phenomenal." Are you kidding me? To have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams and Justin Simmons, yeah, but Simmons is going to want to be paid. So I've got a screenshot here of some of the remaining free agents. Simmons, with his previous annual average value, so how much he got paid per year, it was $15.3 million. That is by far the most, maybe not by far. There's Eddie Jackson there at 14.6. Quandre Diggs, another guy, last AAV was 13 million. So let me look up the Ravens. I know Kyle Hamilton isn't being paid too much. I mean, he was a first round pick, but because he's still on his rookie contract, it's certainly doable. But Marcus Williams, let's put this in context with Marcus Williams.
And remember, a few years ago, he was considered sort of a unique free agency splash for the Ravens at that time in March, right? Almost a shocking type of splash for them to spend that kind of money.
So Marcus Williams has a 14 million average salary.
There you go. He's just between Diggs and Jackson.
There you go. And his 2024 cap hit is 18.7. Homeboy better stay healthy.
No kidding.
You know what I mean? For 18.7, he's got 18.7 this year and next year, and then 2026, and they could cut him before this, but that's 20.7 million in 2026. So Justin Simmons, coming off the third straight second year All-Pro, he has a right to sit there and demand money.
Yeah.
Will the market give in? We'll see. He could do what Kyle Van Noy did last year. What Kyle was just like, nope, I'm going to sit here until I get paid. And then week 3 came along and he was like, oh, nobody's paying me. So the Ravens ended up getting him for super cheap. Let me look up how much that was. And he got paid more this year as a follow-up. But he had, what was it? Was he 9.5 sacks or was that Clowney?
That was Clowney. Kyle was just south of that.
Yeah. Kyle was up there though.
Think about how those decisions worked out for both of those guys though, Jadeveon and Kyle, right? They joined the Ravens super late, and now Jadeveon just got a bag to go to Carolina. Kyle was nowhere near that to remain in Baltimore. But
Kyle Van Noy was 1.4, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's why you play the waiting game if you're Hector Costa. If you still see all these names sitting up there, I think Quandre Diggs would be a nice option.
Definitely.
A lot of these guys would, because remember, this is for your third safety.
Yeah.
Does Justin Simmons, let's say Simmons even got all the money he wanted, and I don't know what he's asking for. But let's say the Ravens were willing to give that. Is he cool with his role? The Ravens play a lot of heavy 3 safety looks. But what happens if you're in a base 2 safety? You know Kyle Hamilton's not coming off the field. So is it Marcus Williams or Justin Simmons? And that's something that Justin's got to put into his calculus.
He's got to be looking at that, which is kind of what Jeff was alluding to in that tweet. You know, is he going to be comfortable in that type of, second fiddle, if you will, format, and a defense where they're pretty set in stone, but at the same time, are they as set in stone as we think, given Marcus's recent injury history?
Exactly.
And obviously the safety 3 discussion outside of those that are outside the building right now has been one that's compelling, and we've discussed that in recent weeks, whether it be undrafted rookies that are going to be kind of chomping at the bit here, or a former undrafted rookie in Darius Washington, who, in a sense, Wink was quick to kind of write him off yesterday. I'm not sure if writing off in the sense that he's not worthy of competing for the third slot. It's just his undersized nature is something that Wink quickly picked up on. I'm not sure if you remember that from yesterday, but that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, it did. The other thing I wanted to kind of dig into a little bit was Quandary. If we can pull him up real quick, his write up, because obviously I think Jeff Rebeck has his ear to the ground a little bit. And when I read his article, I think it was yesterday, it came out, where it was one of those like roster evaluation articles, and he's like, where did the Ravens get better, worse, or the same? And when he was talking about the safeties, he brought up Simmons, but he also brought up Quandary Diggs as a potential guy. And I know they have him here listed as a strong safety. But he can go deep. So Diggs played at an extremely high level for the first 3+ years in Seattle, but much like his former teammate Adams, he saw his play drop off more recently. Last year saw him post his worst coverage numbers since early in his Detroit career. And he also saw his missed tackle rate spike over 17%. That's kind of high. Diggs is an experienced deep safety who has played in multiple coverage schemes, though, and teams are always looking for players who can clean things up in the deep part of the field. I wouldn't hate that one, Bobby. I know it's dropped off a little bit, but again, we're looking for a number 3 safety.
Well, something that Ken McCusick picked up on was interesting about the other two guys when it comes to Jamal, who's now off the market, Justin Simmons, who we're talking about right now, and Ken noted 2 of these guys, obviously big names. You can take Adams off the list, but take a look at 22 and 23 for both of these guys. Ken puts together a couple different numbers here and says if you're looking for a split field safety, neither of these guys fit the bill. So perhaps Diggs would be more of an overall fit in that category.
I mean, I hear what Ken's saying here. But come on.
Of course,
you don't think that Zachary Orr and all the coaching staff couldn't figure out how to put Justin Simmons and Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton together? Like I'm not even that worried about. I'm not that worried about it.
They found a way to keep all 3 on the field the last couple of years, and it worked out pretty darn well, didn't it?
Yeah. Like I feel like they would figure that out.
Yeah.
I think there are bigger obstacles to overcome with Simmons than that.
I would think. And speaking of Zach Orr, we'll hear from Wink Martindale in just a bit here about the new incoming defensive coordinator at 32 or 33 years young, one of the game's young defensive coordinators who's getting ready to call his first ever NFL season at the DC role. Anything else along those lines before we transition?
I'll just say this. You always have to give a, cap hat tip to the guys that are there, like Ardarius Washington. And I know there's some undrafted guys and all that they could look at as the number 3 safety. I think with the injury history of Marcus Williams and Ardarius Washington, you can't play around with that. And so while I think you want to respect what those guys can bring, you also have to acknowledge that injury history for both of them. And I think what Jeff is saying, that they've been in touch with all the safeties on the free agent market. I think it's pretty clear they're even without needing to go into camp and get a look, they know what they have in Ardarius Washington, right? They may not know what they have in their undrafted rookies, but that you don't wait to see what your undrafted rookies are going to do before you make these kind of moves. I think more than anything, they're waiting as a kind of who's going to blink first, kind of like I said with Kyle Van Noy. So to me, I think a veteran signing at safety is inevitable.
Knowing that one of them's going to end up here.
Yes.
But it's going to be on our terms. Right?
Yes. EDC's played this game before.
Yeah.
He's not desperate.
And this is that time of year where Eric's on the beach, maybe even thinking about, although beach time's probably over. Rookies report this Saturday.
Vets got another week. Give the vets another week.
The vets can spend a little bit more time on the beach.
Yeah,
for sure. But rookies report on the 13th, veterans a week later on the 20th. So that is that. Lots of safety discussion going on in the live chat right now. It's going to be an interesting summer to see what kind of roster juggling could happen here, and who of all those, whether it's former undrafted rookies or current undrafted rookies just starting their first ever camp, could make the most noise, if any at all.
One last thing before we move on. Can you bring up the list again of all the free agents? I'm just wanting to. I would like to see the comment section. Other than Simmons, I know Simmons is the number one pick for everybody. Say like the money doesn't work out and he doesn't want to be, in a number 2/3 safety role. Take Simmons out. I know that's our favorite. Who's your next favorite? Kareem Jackson, Deshaun Gibson, Eddie Jackson, Quandre Diggs, Micah Hyde. Is it Micah or Micah? Micah Hyde.
Micah.
Yeah.
We're getting some early Diggs.
We got a lot of Diggs.
Yeah.
Hyde and Diggs. I mean, honestly, again, as number 3, I don't hate either of those. We got nobody.
A lot of Diggs.
Diggs, Gibson, Jackson.
Oh, wait a second. You
Diggs,
asked for
Hyde,
one.
Jackson.
Yeah, you asked for one.
Yeah, I said 1, Cameron.
Come on,
Mr.
fellas.
Cameron, knock it down to 1 for me, Cameron. Jackson or Diggs? I think Diggs is the biggest. I kind of agree.
Zelios. I did a deep dive on Jamal Lewis. Oh, sorry. I saw Jamal Adams. Love Jamal Lewis.
Oh.
I saw Jamal and I was like, it's got to be Adams related. No,
off
Lewis.
topic.
Off topic. Love Jamal though.
But I'm glad you did the deep dive.
Heck yeah.
Oh, Cameron's like, my bad. All right. Yeah, I think we hit it though. I think we can move on to some more wink.
I agree. And before we do, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. You know, the Ellison and Trossett families are rocking these sleep masks at night. It gives you a true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressure is applied to your eyelids or lashes. You've got advanced materials and ventilation for unmatched breathability. And as I shared yesterday, this sleep mask is starting to work its way throughout my extended friend group. The Manta Sleep Mask Pro is what you see on the screen. That's what I got right here. I've been rocking it on the road, at home, during those cat naps during football season, which don't happen often, but when they do, this is the go-to thing. And I know your household continues to, even though it's summer mode. Actually,
you need it in summer mode. Yeah, you need it in summer mode.
They probably have more convenient sleeping patterns this time of year than they do during the
and you want to know
year.
You want to know why this is really important in my house?
Yeah.
So I'm a penny pincher. Okay. I'll spend money if I know I love something or whatever, but we still have not put up all the blinds and curtains in our house, because I remember when we first moved in, they're like, it is insane. Okay. How much curtains and blinds cost. Okay. Unless you go to down to Walmart, or Target and pick up whatever. And so I've been putting it off. And the sun comes into my kids' rooms like no other. So they're like that. Yeah, this is the fix until I get curtains, and even then they'll probably still use it. But we got to get the curtains and blinds up in here. The sun comes up quick, and it is shining bright right into their beds.
But what you're telling everybody in home, maybe new homeowners, is that just get the sleep mask and you can hold off on
there you go
cost.
Yeah,
from a curtain standpoint and shade.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. If you guys are interested in getting a sleep mask, checking out the website and doing all that good stuff, you can click on the link that we have included in the show notes below and just use discount code VAULT10. That's VAULT 10 for 10% off your next purchase. Thank you, Manta Sleep.
And thank you, Mars Madness. I'll check into that.
Yeah, perfect.
Tell me where to get curtains.
Perfect. So you may have caught some of our extremely unique conversation, I would say, with Wink Martindale yesterday, former Ravens defensive coordinator, spent the last couple of years in New York with the Giants, and now he is the newest defensive coordinator at the Michigan Wolverines as that Harbaugh pipeline and family continues. in Ann Arbor. So we wanted to give you a couple different takeaways, some of which is about Lamar Jackson, some of which is about Zach Orr. We already heard from what he had to say on Jamal Adams in terms of where he thinks he's at in his career. But we'll begin with the tone that was set right out of the gate with Wink. And we all remember how entertaining he was during his press conferences. Well, never change, and he certainly hasn't whatsoever. Our next guest in the waiting room right now, that is the incoming defensive coordinator at the Michigan Wolverines, former New York Giants defensive coordinator, and a longtime staple here in Baltimore, of course, as the linebackers coach under John Harbaugh, and most notably as the defensive coordinator under John Harbaugh. That is Don Wink Martindale, coming to us courtesy of his daughter, Cassie Young, Sarah. She's the reason why this is happening. She put on her booking hat for us, and he is literally setting up to hit a shot live on the vault right now.
There we go, Wink!
I'm glad I added that in there.
Hey, guys, we're on vacation.
Live from vacation. So just take us through that tee shot.
I puts it right.
And if that wasn't like a tone setter.
That was the tone setter of all tone setters.
But little did we know what was about to take place, right? Like
I thought he was going to get on his cart and then stay in his cart and do an interview with us. No, right. He took us golfing for what, 5 holes?
Golfing. He took us golfing. We went golfing with him. Yeah. God bless his partner, Mark, his college roommate, who had to essentially, you'll see these clips in a little bit, he had to, in between shots, hold Wink's phone for him. He had to put up with 45 minutes worth of literally his playing partner doing an interview mid-round.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That
was hilarious.
Some people in the live chat think he's on right now. No, we're just going
No. So what we should do is keep our today's faces to the side so they can see that these are yesterday's clips. It is kind of throw you off a little bit. I kept looking up because when you said Sarah in that clip, I looked up. I was like, no, that's the black shirt Sarah. I have on a pink shirt today.
Right. Right. I love it. So the other area, of course, that we touched on with him was Lamar. Mm-hmm. And I don't really think this clip needs to be set up at all because I included your question to begin this.
I just got to have this in there.
Okay.
Do you remember when Taylor
Lewan, yeah.
Taylor Lewan and I kind of went back and forth. This is headed into the Chiefs game. Yeah. And of course, the Ravens did what they did. So you have to let him feel like he's correct. But remember, he went on the Up and Adams show. This is the one I was thinking of when I asked Wink. He said there's a formula to beat Lamar, and with Patrick Mahomes, you just hope to God, is what he said. So that takes off on Twitter, and Taylor sees it, and he's like, well, there is. Don't be angry. He's like, think of the Titans 2009 divisional game. He's like, that's the formula. Only that the Ravens went back and beat them the next year, so the formula didn't work. And I think that was Wink Martindale's point when I followed up.
All right, here we go.
No, and take pride in the fact that Lamar Jackson is 20-1 as a starter against NFC teams.
Oh, really? Okay. Who's that NFC team that beat him?
Oh, that's I couldn't even. Could it be Wink Martindale's Giants? I mean, could it be?
I didn't even know that was a fact.
So now that you're in college, maybe this is a safe question. Okay.
Okay.
Because in Baltimore, people get super angry when we talk about the key to beating Lamar Jackson. Okay, what the keys are. Are you willing to divulge a little bit on those keys since you're in college now and how you did it? Because you know him just about as well as anybody going up against him in practice.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Lamar is my favorite. Do I give him this putt? There's luck involved in it, which I've always said I'd rather be lucky than good.
Okay.
But I think any time as a coordinator, this isn't just against Lamar, though. As a coordinator, you have to save something for the second half. Something you haven't showed them in the first half of your game plan. And we were fortunate enough to really not have to bust it out until the fourth quarter. And that gave him a completely different look, a look I haven't shown him going against going against him when we were there. You got to have luck. You got to be able to change. You got to save something for the second half as a coordinator, and that's against any quarterback. You know what I mean? But we were fortunate enough to hold it till the fourth quarter and gave some different looks, covering Andrews and, which slowed up Lamar a little bit. We were fortunate enough when I say the Lux, they had the rookie center bad snap in that quarter, if I remember right. We were stemming, which we knew that gave that particular offensive line stemming, moving before the snap. You know what I'm saying, Sarah?
Yeah.
Which we knew gave that offense problems because, at that time, because of, the play calling and how they were always changing things at the line. So they would jump, just little things like that. But, bottom line was, okay, I hit one straight into the sand trap.
What do you think of it when people say, like,
just so everybody knows,
It's
I've
still
edited
funny.
this thing down so much to try and make it like consumable for you all because we want to talk about it. It's easier said than done when he's literally mid-round. So hopefully I did an okay job. But
this is great. I love it's so funny that you're editing it down and yet it's still a ton of golf. Like it's still
But he goes, and that's the bottom line. Bang. And then he
Yeah.
swings it and then he
Yeah.
continues his thought afterwards. Okay, we have
Yeah.
another about a minute or so left.
Okay,
Here we
all right.
go.
There have been plenty of people in the media that will say, okay, to stop Lamar, you gotta keep him in. You gotta make sure he stays in the pocket. Make him throw. Don't let him run. You think there's truth to that?
Nope. I think he's gotten so much better at that, especially last year. I think that he's improved, every year. But I think, especially with, staying in the pocket and making the throws. Well, I don't think anybody wants to give somebody else credit, until they win Super Bowls. But, go ahead, Mark. I'm going to finish up his question. I think it's unfair, some of the things that are said. I think it's bullshit that just keep him in the pocket. You know how hard it is to keep him in the pocket? You could say that. Yeah, we're just going to keep him in the pocket. And all he needs is 6 inches and he slides through it. So I just don't agree with that analogy. I think you just got to keep, like any quarterback, you got to keep changing things up. And, I know everybody talks about good par. Everybody talks about, how much we pressure and everything else. You got to mix in some pressures. You hold this for me. You got to mix it. You can't be afraid to pressure him or any quarterback, So
What did you tell your Giants defenders going in?
Good luck.
I know that was long, guys, but I just thought that a way to like make it relevant was you asked one Lamar related question in the beginning and then
Yeah.
I followed up it at the end. And I just thought it all went well together.
I'm glad you did that, and I'm glad I re-listened to it because I picked up on some things that I didn't pick up live when we were talking to him. So the first time I picked up him saying, obviously, that it's BS. You just keep him in the pocket, like that's easier said than done, right? Now, anytime you can make anybody one-dimensional, that's like success for a defensive coordinator. So, I mean, I think there's probably some truth to it to that degree, Bobby, where it's like if you can keep any offense or when you have a dual threat quarterback, if you can make him one dimensional, like if all he could do was run, right, and not throw, then that would be a problem too.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, he called it BS because it's easier said than done. And then the funny thing was him saying good luck. And I had picked up the first time that he said that you have to save something for the end and you have to keep switching things up. So I thought that was big. What I didn't pick up the first time is to stop Lamar, he wanted to stop Mark Andrews. Did you hear him say that? He said we did some things to Mark Andrews. And then he said when we did that to Mark, it like, I don't know if he used the word slowed, but it impacted Lamar, he felt like.
Yeah.
Then he said he talked about that bad snap, which he said was fortunate, but he said they were trying to do some things to throw off the offensive line.
Really the only knock on Linderbaum's resume to date.
I know, right? And was he a rookie that year?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he said a rookie
And
snap.
Wink
Yeah.
referred to him as such. He knew that.
He
right
knew.
off the bat.
He knew. So to get to Lamar, he was going to get to Mark, and he was going to get to that rookie. And so he said he was doing some stemming and pressures and all that. So, so I thought that was interesting the second time around, which is why when Mark went down, we were happy to see Likely step up. And then you're happy to see Zay. And so with Mark back, this is why we've been pounding the table. Please, Todd Monken, find a way to have these two tight end sets, right? Because fine, go put all your eggs in the basket of Mark, which means Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely and Rashad Bateman. Those three have to step up. We cannot live in a world where Wink Martindale and other defensive coordinators know that if you get to Mark, that means you can get to Lamar. And by the way, though, that scares me a little bit with 3 new starters. Like, it's true that you've got a developed Linderbaum now, but you potentially have a new rookie with Voorhees, and who knows, and maybe a rookie at right tackle, and who knows who's going to be at right guard. Maybe it's Cleveland, maybe it's somebody else. But to get to Lamar, they're going to want to mess up that offensive line. So I just thought it was interesting that he threw those in there, that to get to Lamar, he had to get to the others.
And unprompted, he also likened the Andrews-Lamar combo to Kelsey and Mahomes, and also went way out of his way to say, why doesn't Mark get more respect from around the league?
Yes, he did bring that up. He was
referred to him as underrated. He referred to him as tough as nails. And then that obviously transitioned into the importance to Lamar.
Yep.
So.
Oh, I love that. I love that, though. We will have that smaller clip of, that's BS.
Definitely.
The next time somebody talks about, the formula.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
You may have to tweet it at Luan.
Yeah. I can't because right now Luan has the upper hand. Right? Because the Ravens abandoned the run.
For
now. They abandoned the run. They abandoned their identity. And so his whole point was make him throw. And like I said, there's some truth to it, because anytime you make anybody one-dimensional, and Wink talks about that later. I said, what did Steve Spagnuolo do? We'll talk about it now because we didn't get the clip. What did Steve Spagnuolo do to make the Ravens do that? And he said, well, the Ravens abandoned the run. And he's like, John said it. And so, like,
he said, Todd went cold.
He said Todd went cold and Spags got hot. Yeah. But he said that's what happens when you're a coordinator on both sides. It's like, Michael Jordan, right? It's any basketball player, it's any baseball player. Like, you get on hot streaks, you get on cold streaks, and he's saying you do the same thing as a play caller. Wait, what was I bringing that back to, though? Spags, defensive court. Oh, Taylor. So point is, in a way, Taylor's correct, because if you can make anybody one-dimensional, that plays into the defense. But the point is that they just lost their identity. Lamar Ball, as RG3 said to us, is doing both. That's why you're a dual threat. It's not that you can't do one or the other, but doing both makes you more dangerous. And so, but right now, that Chiefs game plays into what Taylor was saying. Yeah. But the Ravens did it to themselves.
But am I convinced that Taylor's a believer that Lamar can beat you in both ways? I'm not convinced. Based on his track record with the way that he's talked about the strategy going into against Lamar. We'll see if that evolves over time. Another clip. Again, all this conversation is available for you in the Vault archives, whether it be in the audio only form or right here on YouTube as well. Zach Orr. Wink knows Zach very well. Zach's getting ready for his first year, as we all know, as the newest Ravens defensive coordinator, the successor of Mike Macdonald. We talked with Wink about that, and at the start, his camera was upside down.
Done a great job of that in OTAs, and he'll do it throughout training camp.
And I should set it up more so and say that the question was related to, hey, he's going to be drinking from the fire hose, isn't he? And he's going up against one of the greatest of all time and Andy Reid right out of the gate, and it doesn't get any easier from there. So how do you simulate that? And that's the way Wink started that answer.
OTAs, and he'll do it throughout training camp. And like I said before, John doesn't get enough credit. I mean, this whole system is basically what he directed me to develop, and he played a part in it too. So John doesn't get enough credit. What's the constant is John, and how he runs practices, how he sees the game, how you game plan, and he's always there with you when you're calling a game. So he'll be there with Zach.
Do you think? Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
He'll make Zach feel like $1 million going into that game.
I love that.
And they'll be fine.
That's the takeaway, right? He's going to make Zach feel like $1 million going into that game, meaning Thursday night, September 5th at Arrowhead. But then you and I followed up and we were like, well, is there going to be need for a certain level of patience in that interim period, in that early going? And of course.
He didn't hesitate. He's like, oh yeah, please have patience, because he's got to find his groove.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he went on to start talking about Mike's transition from a couple of years ago as well. Because remember, Mike took some heat in that opening month 2 years ago as the DC in Baltimore. So it'll be
from Rex Ryan
and many others. It'll be really interesting to compare the opening months once we see like 4 or 5 games from Zach compared to because they both had never called plays at the NFL level before. Now Mike had probably the one up because of his time at Michigan.
Right. He at
Zach's
least
coming in college.
He's coming in cold.
Right?
He's coming in cold.
That's actually a big advantage for Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that's the Michigan Wolverines you're calling plays for.
Right. That's not like Division
Zach's
3.
been around it. But Zach's never done it.
Zach, however, here's where Zach has a leg up. Mike McDonald never played football at a high level, correct?
I want to say collegiately, but not where Zach has been.
Zach has been as a linebacker and as a linebacker's coach. So he was a linebacker. He's been in the middle of it. He knows how to get his teammates. He's always had to know the whole defense. And he's got to think like a coach. And then the linebackers coach, often, not always, but often it's a linebackers coach that next steps into a defensive coordinator, because again, they're at the middle of the defense and they have to know where to put everybody. So I don't know that. I mean, Mike McDonald was a linebackers coach, but he never played in there. So
I made it up, by the way, that he had a collegiate career.
I didn't think he did.
He was the brains.
Did he? Is there any? What is his actual playing? Is it high school? Is it just high school?
It's not even out. It's not even out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not even out there. But his first ever gig was at a high school in Georgia, where he was the linebackers and running backs coach. And then from there, he started his GA, got a GA gig at Georgia, where he went to school, and then was the defensive quality control assistant there for a few years. Then went on to intern with the Ravens in 2014. The rest is history. He had a bunch of different assistant gigs, kept getting promoted, kept being viewed as like the next thing. And then, of course, he goes to Michigan for 2021. He brings them to new heights. Pretty sure they beat Ohio State that year for the first time in a minute. And then he gets promoted back to Baltimore. That's an unreal rise.
That is
that rise.
It is the definition of a meteoric rise. Yeah. And Zach's like not too far behind.
Right?
Yeah.
So Mike's, just to give you an idea, Mike is 37. That means he got his first NFL defensive coordinator job at 35. Zach's younger than that. Zach,
I want to say Zach is 32 or 33.
Just had a birthday. Zach turned 32. In June 9th. He also just got married.
Oh, he got it when he was 31. Oh, he did get married.
When we were on vacation, Zach Orr got married. I think he just finished up his honeymoon. Looks like he's been having a blast.
Good for him.
So imagine that. You get your
first his life is taken off.
Think about that.
That's after though, man. But think of what he had to go through to get to this.
Yeah.
Like He is on fire as an undrafted rookie linebacker. He became an all-pro, right? Not
Let's
just Pro Bowler?
see. Zach was second
Look that
team,
up for me.
2016.
Second team all-pro. And then he finds out that he has a condition that he was born with that makes him not be able to play the NFL anymore. And he feels fine, right? He feels fine. It's just at a great risk. So no doctor will approve him.
Now look at the difference. Go ahead. Finish that thought.
Oh, I was just going to say, so his NFL career and dream is ripped away from him as he fought for it as an undrafted guy. That's ripped away. That man doesn't flinch. And this is what I tell my kids all the time.
Yeah.
And I start little. Bobby, I'll just tell you, last night, I asked Ella to go put something down in the basement. She says, Mom, it's scary down there. And I'm like, she's like, will you come with me? She's 7 now. And I'm like, listen. I was like, you got to stare fear in the eye. Like, you should have heard me. I get down to her level, right? I'm like looking at her down at her level. I'm like, Ella,
you got 3-point stance.
You're bigger than you're bigger than a dark basement. You go down there, you flip on the lights, you can do this by yourself. And I go, you know what? I bet you can do this in 30 seconds. You're not afraid of that. You're not afraid of that. You show fear that you're bigger than fear.
Yeah.
And it worked. Like, she it was like a suitcase from when we were coming back from vacation. She takes this big suitcase. She starts running, puts it down, turns on the light, runs down the stairs, comes back up, and she's like, did I do it in 30 seconds? And I'm like, yeah. And she wasn't even scared anymore. Anyway.
Ella attacked that task in the basement with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind in the Columbus area. That is fantastic.
This is legit. You guys think that I'm like putting it on the podcast. Like, that's how I talk to my kids.
Live chat.
So anyway, she's not afraid of the basement anymore. I love it.
Sebastian says Sarah's turning into Ray Lewis for her kids. Tank Bromansky says that's a perfect pep talk for a 7-year-old. Sarah's a G. Daniel says Sarah's taking notes from Roquan and Ray.
I for real am. I've read quotes from Ray to my kids. The one where he says I use the word ticked off. He uses a different word. I just feel like it's a little crass. It's not a curse word, but it feels weird coming off my tongue. So the one where he says he's ticked off for greatness. Whoa, we know that one in this household. Anyway, bringing back to Zach. He didn't flinch when his career's taken away, and he just jumps right into coaching. And now he's a DC at the age of 32, and now he's getting married, and his life is starting all over again. You just can't flinch.
Love a good comeback story.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say there is as you look at a former player and somebody who did not have a playing background, who are now in similar pinnacles of their profession as coaches, Zach's probably got a little bit more ways to go if he wants to get to head coach, obviously. But it's very, very different when you're not a former player. I told you what Mike's rise was. It was a high school coach. It was then a grad assistant. It was then defensive quality control. It was then, back to interning. Okay, you're in the NFL, but you're back to interning in Baltimore. Then you go from a defensive assistant to defensive backs to linebackers. You got to go back to college to become a DC. Then you come back to the Ravens to become the same thing. And then you get your head coaching opportunity. Zach began as a defensive analyst with the Ravens the year after his career ended, playing-wise. And from 2017 to 2020, he served as that. He then leaves for Jacksonville, almost like Mike leaves for Michigan. Becomes the outside linebackers coach for the Jaguars. Spends a lone season there, as Mike did in Michigan. Zach comes back as the inside linebackers coach for 22 and 23 with Roquan, of course, those 2 years, or at least 1.5 years. The rest is history. That room was dominant. That room was game-changing. And then he gets the call this year in the midst of a ton of compelling candidates who would have been
plenty
up
of
for
candidates
that job.
who could have done the job. Yeah.
So,
yeah. One other thing before we move on. Do you have another clip? Is there one more?
No, it's Rich Eisen.
Oh, yeah, it's Rich Eisen. So one more thing on that. Off the top, sort of off the top, I asked him about him departing ways with the Ravens. And the quote that has always stuck with me before they parted ways was after a game. Harbaugh seemed pretty ticked off, and he was like, "You know what? If you just pressure all the time, everybody's going to be expecting it." I was like, dang, that's like the closest I've heard him ever like throw a coach under the bus, right? And it was at the end of that season that they parted ways. Anyway, we asked him about it, and he's like, it's water on the bridge. He didn't want to talk about it clearly. But it sounds like it got intense there for a minute between the two. And by the way, they've been long time friends. Wink coached for Jack Harbaugh first back in the day.
They won a championship together at Western Kentucky.
Yeah. And but what I loved about it, and I really do, this is like life lessons. First Zach gave us one, now these two are giving us one. I love that like you can legitimately be ticked off at a friend that you've worked with forever. And I mean, it's not a small thing to he's essentially fired, right? Like kind of. I mean, then you say let's mutually part ways, but Wink would not throw John under the bus yesterday. Not that we were asking him to, but he just wanted to move on. And not only did he not throw John under the bus, which I'm sure they had their disagreements, but then he praised John for his role in defense, saying there's been a million different defensive coordinators. You've had stars come and go. And yet the defense in Baltimore is always superb. Rarely, I mean, it's always top 10, if not higher. And John's the constant. And Wink gave John that credit. And that to me was just like, yeah, like you can get over really tough things with friends. Like it doesn't have to go sour. You don't have to cut people out of your life. You don't have to. Like you're both good guys. You had a huge disagreement, and it impacted Wink's life for sure and his career for sure. But they're still loyal to each other and have much love for each other. And I really made me really respect Wink.
I couldn't agree more. It's well said. Do you remember that quick little shot that he took at the Giants early on in the conversation with Wink?
I thought he took a shot at himself. Maybe I'm forgetting it, where he's like, I thought I was going to go to the Giants and I was hoping that it would help me get on the head coaching career. And he's like, now that didn't happen. But what else are you? Now I remember that.
My takeaway was that Giants ownership. That was my thought.
Do you think they promised him a head coaching job?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But there were a lot of talks about Wink prior to accepting the defensive coordinator job while he was in Baltimore. He was heavily sought after by the Giants. This was around like 2019, 2020. And so the way I read that was that there was some disappointment, maybe even some miscommunication, misleading stuff there. That was my read on it.
Huh. Okay.
Or he could have been self-deprecating, like you said.
I took it as self-deprecating, but actually, now that you say that, I remember your reaction being like more. We had two different interpretations.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I hope he gets his chance one day. He gets a chance. So before we get to quick hits, Rich Eisen, in response to ESPN's positional rankings at the running back position, which Jeremy Fowler has been putting out pieces on. It's his annual NFL executive anonymous type of piece that he puts together. And Monday was running backs. Yesterday was defensive backs. A couple other things. Safeties, right? You have coming up for Kyle.
Yep.
Safeties will be one of our quick hits. Anyway, Rich Eisen has Derrick Henry top 5. He has him at 4. The ESPN anonymous NFL execs collectively had him, Sarah, what was it, 7? No, 9. 9. Rich has him at 4. Here's why.
I'm still going with this guy. I'm still ride or dying with him, even though he's not much of a threat catching it, but he can be. Derrick Henry, let's not sleep on him. I think this guy's a Hall of Famer, okay? I think this guy's going to have a bust. And the bust should have a bust. He should be the first guy in the Hall of Fame with a torso to the bust, okay? Like, that's how high on Derrick Henry I am. And with the Ravens, what a match. What a match made in heaven.
There's 2 reasons why I brought that in. One, he's saying enough of the sleeping on him, which we've discussed in recent weeks. A lot of people are writing him off because of the age and the miles and the tread. So that was one. And then 2, he thinks that, as you just heard, he should be the first ever player with his Hall of Fame bust to actually have a lower torso attached to the head. And for good reason. Right?
So I'm trying to envision this. The lower torso attached to the head? Are we cutting out?
The sculpture. This would be,
Okay.
I'd have to think a pretty penny to put that together.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the sentiment there from
Yeah.
Rich.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of Jeremy Fowler
Yeah.
and the anonymous scouts and front office people giving rankings, safeties came out. I was about to say, guess where Kyle Hamilton is, but we have it on the screen.
Oops.
Kyle Hamilton, number 2.
Beast.
Talk
about meteoric rises.
Woo!
Welcome to the big show. You're not border. I think this is kind of where I've come to terms with. You're no longer a budding star. You're just a bona fide star. That's what Kyle Hamilton is through 2 seasons.
He's broken out. He's out there. So the highest ranking, when again these front office executives just rank their people 1 through 10. Highest ranking he got, number 1. By the way, the person who beat him was Antoine Winfield Jr. over the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Okay.
So his highest ranking was 1, Kyle Hamilton. His lowest ranking was 6. Last year, not even ranked, Bobby. This is how much he just exploded onto the scene.
Which Justin Madubuike was as well.
Correct.
Unranked last year. So these 2 guys are.
See,
bursting.
And that's why, by the way, that is why you have to give some trust to your front office, because you can't pay everybody and you have to rely on people to actually break out. And so sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But in a big way, that happened with Kyle and Madubuike last year. Please let somebody else break out. Can it be Ojabo? Can it be Odafe-Owe? Can it be Zay Flowers to another level? Can it be Bateman? Somebody likely kind of broke out last year. There's got to be 3 or 4 guys that break out again. It has to. Now, maybe not to the level of these guys. Anyway, it says Hamilton is the only player on this list with at least 10 tackles for loss. 10 of those. And 10 pass deflections, 13 of those in 2023. He added 3 sacks and 4 interceptions, allowing 261 yards on 62 targets. Here's a quote from an NFC scout on him. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife that was used in every way possible last season. Literally. He was a defender opposing offenses. He was a defender that opposing offenses had to be aware of on every single snap. That reminds me of Tom Brady on his forearm where he wrote "fine number 20" on every play.
Yep. Is
that what people are doing with 14? Sounds like it, according to the scout. Goes on to say some evaluators believed Hamilton's lack of speed, 4.59 second 40-yard dash at the end of the 2022 NFL Draft Combine, limits his ability to play deep. His tight hips make him more of a straight line runner, and the Ravens are more inclined to play him at middle linebacker in dime than as a post safety. Okay, he has tight hips. Yet. Okay, all pro.
Hasn't kept him.
Okay. And this is why, by the way, whenever you read like scouting reports, like you obviously always have to put negative in and then you have to put positive in. And if you don't know the person, you're just reading in it and you think that the negative is just as big as the positive, whereas like, okay, tight hips, tight hips. But remember how he's an all pro and you got to watch him on every single play. But as Jeremy writes, but all of that hasn't limited production. Quote from an AFC executive says, doesn't fit the bill for everyone. What? Yeah. This is my point back to like the Ken McCusick thing. Like if you're looking for a split, like saying Simmons doesn't fit the bill to be a split safety. Well, you might be right. He may not fit that bill, but you're not a good coach if you can't figure out Hamilton, Simmons, and Marcus Williams. Like, what do you mean it's not for everybody? Come on now. Doesn't fit the bill for everyone, which is why he fell to the Ravens, but really important for them. He's got to be the guy that ranked him number 6, right? It's this guy right here. This AFC executive doesn't fit the bill for everyone. Have to know where he is at all times. That doesn't fit the bill for everyone. Have to know where he is at all times. Really good instincts in the middle of the field. Close quote.
A little bit of contradiction there in that last paragraph, but
okay, buddy.
Yeah, that 10 tackles for loss number really sticks out along with the 10 pass deflections because I just think of his wingspan. Those two statistics just bring me back to like his basketball career.
Yeah.
And I think he could have probably made a career of that if he wanted to, and he picked football. You know, we've mentioned it before. His father, Derrick, played professionally overseas, and that's why he grew up in the Greece area. But when I think of Kyle, like in that area, from a tackles for loss standpoint, obviously he's good in space. But he's able to cover so much ground. He may not be the quickest ever, but he makes up for it because of his ranginess and because of his wingspan. He's just so good in space. So,
yep,
good stuff. Won't be long until we see a number 1 attached to that, I would think. Some quick hits from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, this was funny. Only part of it do I find to be totally true. But anyway, Chad Forbes, he's a NFL draft guy. Anyway, he put up this tweet a couple days ago. I was going to put it in yesterday, but we ran out of time with golfing with Wink. He tweeted, Browns have paid Deshaun Watson $143 million to this point to play 12 games.
Yeah.
Can somebody do the math for me real quick? How much is that per game is he getting?
You're not going to want to see that number.
I want to see it because we cover the Ravens. I wouldn't want to see it if I were a Browns fan.
It's going to be a pathetic number.
I'm just pulling this up here, Bobby. We got to get this. This is crazy. 143 divided by 12. He's getting paid basically $12 million per game. Ooh! Okay.
To have Joe Flacco come in, soon to be 40-year-old, and take you to the promised land.
Yes. Then he goes on, Chad says, which I totally agree with this, couldn't re-sign Joe Flacco for fear it'd create controversy in the locker room. Just digging holes here. Then he goes here. He goes, Deshaun has spent this offseason gallivanting around the world on private jets, not rehabbing his shoulder or preparing to right his career. And he's pointed out everywhere he's been. Scottsdale. What's Ibiza? Should I know where that is?
Spain.
Unbelievable.
Spain. Well, it's an acquired taste. I don't know if you would enjoy it. It's a club scene. It's the party capital of the world in Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'd like the beach scene there.
Well, I've been to the beach scene in Spain. It's different. It's
a party and drug scene. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I don't want to generalize the entire place, but like that's why you go there.
Okay. And so I guess that's where Watson was. Wait, you were in Spain. You did study abroad there. Did you go there?
I lived in Madrid, and that did not crack the itinerary for the 4 months that I was there.
Okay.
No.
Right.
I did do like the equivalent of that, which was such like down so many ticks, was like Palma de Mallorca, the retirement community beach scene. That's where I went for whatever reason.
I'm reading some of these comments and I'm dying also.
Okay,
I'm not reading those comments. Okay, focus. Okay, France, Miami, Saudi Arabia, Los Angeles, Rome, and Vegas. All right, listen, I am okay with players living their life in the offseason. Obviously, they need to keep in shape and all that kind of stuff. And he has posted plenty of videos, like the one I have a screen grab of working out. But listen, if he is not rehabbing for real, we're okay. We're the AFC North enemies. That's cool with me. But it is crazy. This is why teams don't want to pay guaranteed money. This is the guy, like, if I'm the NFLPA, it was like, couldn't have been like Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Burrow or Allen or any of these other guys that got the guaranteed money, because this is going to be why nobody wants to pay guaranteed money. 12 games, $143 million. They have to stick with it, and then they had to move on from Flacco because it's guaranteed. You paid it, so What do they say in the stores? Like, you break it, you buy it. Like, you paid for it, you have to keep going.
Well, you better believe every one of his moves from here on out is going to be dissected, and that includes what he does in the offseason. That's just the nature of that situation. Meanwhile,
I meant to make that picture bigger. We were running out of time with the
That's all
Jamal Adams news.
we were running around. We were running around like crazy. So mini Lamar on the right, and on the left, Ken McCusick
You call him mini Lamar.
mentioning that Lamar has over 5,200 career rushing yards. That's 137th on the all-time list. By the way, we're not talking about quarterbacks. That's all-time list. Running backs,
including running
quarterbacks,
backs.
everybody.
Yeah.
Were he to retire with 10,000 yards, he'd be 32nd behind Tiki Barber, Eddie George, Marshawn Lynch, Otis Anderson, Ricky Williams, some big names.
Dude.
And Ken says, I bet every one of them would be thinking, wow, I had more rushing yards than Lamar Jackson.
I love that tweet from Ken.
No doubt.
Well, and here's what's funny, and this goes back to my point. I think I made it yesterday, sometime this week. I saw some reaction to this from Ravens fans saying, I hope he doesn't run for 10,000. I'm sure he'll keep getting less and less.
Yeah.
As the years go on. But this is my point. You are letting other people shame you out of not like a yard is a yard. Right. And we've done the research. He's not more prone to being injured by designed runs. The most dangerous plays are the quarterback knockdowns and the sacks and all of that. Like it's when you're not looking, you can't protect yourself. Why do you not want him to hit 10,000? Forget that. Let other people call him a running back. My running back and quarterback is the MVP. What does that say about your quarterback? That's what you need to be saying back. Like I would say, I'm going to celebrate big time if he hits 10,000 yards. Are you kidding me?
Of course. That's what makes him
this
special.
is what Joy Taylor, this is it, is when we play Joy Taylor. She's like, our minds haven't adjusted yet. A lot of Ravens fans say they're behind Lamar, and yet you're still ashamed that he can make 10,000? What? Let's celebrate that. A yard is a yard. A yard is a yard. Let's do it. And it also means if he hits 10,000, by the way, that he's not losing his juice. Let's go.
Let him know.
I have some feelings on it.
I know you do. What did you got here? This is from The Athletic. This was sort of an AFC North whip around, right?
Yes, and it was remember how I had Jeff talking about what he was excited about and who was going to be like on cameras and whatnot? I didn't see this from, what's his first name, Cabally, over for the Steelers?
Mark, and then this is related to the Hard Knocks.
Yeah, so this is related to Hard Knocks, and it's like they asked every athletic person that covers their team in the AFC North what they were kind of excited about or who they think would be in front of the camera. This cracked me up. Yeah. Okay, it's a little bit small. Here we go. Here, it's better over here. Okay, it kind of came out of nowhere because, this is like, what was your first reaction? He said it kind of came out of nowhere because the Steelers don't like to open their doors and let outsiders see how the sausage is made. But when you can have 4 teams featured over 6 weeks, it doesn't seem like that much of an ask for any of the organizations. He said, I wouldn't expect much to come out of it for Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt, Hayward, and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Russell Wilson are all polished PR machines. I would imagine this is the part that makes me laugh.
This is good.
I would imagine the Steelers will keep Patrick Queen and Najee Harris away from the cameras. But even if they don't, there's an erase button available in the editing process.
Okay, so who's Baltimore keeping away? Roquan and Marlon?
No, they want Roquan there. He's your leader.
But
absolutely not.
But I interpreted this, though, as we're trying to diffuse any potential noise. We're trying to put out any potential fires from happening.
No. But do you remember Jeff's point when I read about Roquan? They were like, Roquan already comes across.
It's his personality.
Right. He said he comes across as a trash talker because you hear it in clips. But if you're watching him, you start to see, that's just how he lives. Right. Like that's just his personality. Like, I don't think the Ravens are, because Roquan never really crosses the line. You can twist his words if you want, but he's talking purely smash mouth football, which is the Ravens brand. There's no way I'm keeping Roquan. He's Ravens defense. He's the face of it. Nah. I'm putting the cameras right squarely in front of him.
But even if people are twisting him, and we know, since we were lucky enough to get to know him on a weekly basis, that a lot of those words were twisted. The kids and the wife's comments, Cleveland week, we all remember that, right? Hide your kids, hide, blah, 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 blah. That was completely twisted and completely overblown, but it became a thing.
No, I got you. I just don't. I honestly think that, like, I can imagine Harbaugh thinking about it, or even well, I guess more Harbaugh, and being like, yeah, no, Roquan's real. He's
Okay.
a Raven. He's as real as I don't think Harbaugh's worried about. I don't think that Roquan is like top of his list of being nervous about. I really don't.
Live chat. What do you think?
Who do you think the Ravens
Which
want to keep
player?
away? Like, who's the equivalent of what
Yep.
Cavali's saying here? Patrick Queen and Najee Harris are keeping away.
Who's one player? Right.
You can't keep away Marlon.
Player?
That's not going to happen.
Which is the first player that comes to mind? Where
Marlon's going to be a magnet to the cameras.
From an organizational standpoint, that we're just like, you know what? This would be best. This would just be easiest on us.
I would think
they gotta come.
I'm trying to think of, like, to me, who I think the Ravens would be more worried about is like complainers.
I'm trying to think of somebody that, I mean, PQ would have been the obvious answer. PQ is pure comedy. And even more so than the pure comedy, let's not forget, he went after Mike Tomlin last year in his podium setting. He's unafraid. Some are saying Marlon.
They're definitely saying Marlon.
A lot are saying Marlon. Aaron says Bateman.
Oh, Bateman. I could let me tell you, I could maybe see Bateman if Bateman's down.
Yeah.
Which he himself has said that he has to work through things. Like he has said before that, like I remember listening to his last podcast appearance on the lounge, and he was like, when he was freaking out and he was still injured, like his mind wasn't only about, oh crap, I can't play. He also took a turn and said, he's like, I just wasn't in the mood for what social media was going to say. Like, I didn't want to see all that. It's like, that wouldn't even be on my mind.
Yeah.
So like he's talked about how he still has to work through not caring about all that. So I could see Bateman, just because I wouldn't want to give the opponent like a chance to be like, oh, I'm going to attack him and target him because I think I can get under his skin.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go Marlon.
Maybe, but they're not going to be. Marlon is going to be. He's going to be in front of those cameras all the time. He's a guy that loves the cameras.
I know. I think he's gonna stir it up. I think it's gonna be. He's gonna be a major character.
Like, you don't have to worry about offensive linemen. They're all like, right. What's the word I'm looking for?
Even keel, stoic.
Stoic is the word I was looking for. Yeah. Corners, any quarters? I kind of want to see him. I want to get to know.
It would have been Juice Man if he was still here.
Oh, they for sure would have wanted to keep Juice Man out of there. Yeah. Wiggins, I'm kind of excited.
You would have there would have been zero filter in terms of language with Marcus. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Marcus Peters. Whew. All right.
Yeah, it would have been. All right. Anyway.
One more quick hit here. Gordon McGinnis from PFF put together the 8 highest graded seasons by a Ravens guard since 2008. He thinks it's funny. We do too. He's the GOAT. Marshall Yanda. Look at him. 14, 15, 16, 12, 08, 11, 19, and 13. Beast. Stability, ferociousness, professionalism. Love that guy.
I'm starting to think of like my all-time Ravens offensive line. There's so many good people. You got Jonathan Ogden and Marshall Yanda, right? Is Linderbaum the best center? You had Matt Flynn back in the day. Tyler might end up being that way. It's an early.
Yeah. Tyler's heading in that direction.
Grubbs, left guard. Yanda, right guard. Linderbaum. Yeah. And then right tackle, one of the either Orlando Brown or Orlando Brown Jr. Right. That'd be fun.
Right. Yep.
Anyway.
Greg McCarthy, Chris B., thank you both for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out. We appreciate the support through Patreon, and thanks for everything you do for us on the back end. If you guys are interested in doing the same, it's a great way to support us. It's a great way to get more involved with the show. You can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast by visiting the show notes below. And with that, we'll have one more show this week. And then next week, we'll have actually probably some rookie content to dive into if the team puts any out, being that all first-year players report on Saturday the 13th.
This week flew by. It's already Friday tomorrow.
I was surprised by how much it flew because it was the first week back from our vacation.
Yeah, you're
Which
usually
some might be like, well, no, you're getting flooded. But I'm like, well, no, you got to kind of like reconvince yourself.
right. You're
jump
like
back in.
you're like back to life. That whole like
Yeah.
it's like depressing trying to get back to it, but it wasn't. I just feel like it's been a fun week. It's been good.
Yeah. Well, fun. Look, I'm having fun with you, but once we go off,
Oh, you got to go paint.
I'm doing nightly shifts.
You're.
I mean, I had a spotlight out there last night till 9:30. Up on the ladder, scraping paint. We've moved to the backside.
You got to
now.
get a crew. Get your brothers back in town. I'm a little ticked off your brothers aren't there. You let them know.
Listen,
You
TJ
clip
is
this and
living
send
his.
it to him.
TJ's in his. I will. TJ's in his like finance bro era in New York. He's got his first big boy job. He's living in Murray Hill. He's loving the
I guess they
Manhattan
have
scene.
jobs.
He's like spending money all the time. You know, loving it. John, I got to give John some credit. John is doing a lot. He's the youngest of 4. He is the baby of the family. He's interning in Albany. He's living here in my mom's house for the summer. He's tried to contribute as much as possible.
I
but
mean,
can
they're working.
tell
I get it.
he's
Listen,
getting stressed. Like it's like his last summer as a college kid before the real world. He wants to hang out with his buddies. He wants to do this. He wants to do that, and he thinks that I'm guilt tripping him.
Oh.
And I am.
Oh.
And I am hard.
Oh. Are you good at mom guilt? Like, have you?
I'm good at hammering him. I have been verbally hammering him recently, and he's letting me know about it. And it's mostly banter and in good fun.
Yeah.
Until mom pulls you aside and is like, "Listen,
Leave him alone.
Can you like, tone it down?"
Well, and let's be honest, we can do our show from anywhere, right? So you can like your show. Our job is in our home, and we can do it from anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially during July. Like this is definitely our downtime. It's about to get crazy here with training camp.
Right.
We're in the slowest period of the football season, and you can relocate. So, your brothers have to physically be at their jobs.
You know what? I'll just maybe everybody can relate. Some of you can relate to this. My mom's single. She's an empty nester. She's still young. There's no doubt about it. She's still got your youthful exuberance to her. But as anybody knows who lives in a house by themselves, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
She's working full time. She works long hours, and anything that we can do to help. To me, this should have been done over a decade ago. And so that's my motivation. I want this to be off her plate. And maybe the selfish side of it is I want to come home and look at it and feel rewarded.
Sebastian wants to know the update on Erica with the K.
Erica just got back into the States after 2 weeks in Europe with her family vacation. And we're still chatting, but nothing's really.
Are? Okay.
We're still chatting. There's nothing that's on the books in terms of like a second date, but we're still chatting.
Right.
That's the weird thing about me right now. Like I am so locked in on this project that it's not even like, I hate to say it, it's like women is not even a priority right now in my life.
It's all right.
So
I mean, you just did it. You just like went all the way up to New York. It's okay to She's actually closer. She's actually closer to me geographically. So maybe now that she's back, we'll figure something out. No, well, what you need to do is invite her to come down and paint. She can meet mom.
Yeah,
you can get some painting done.
Hey.
It's an extra body, as they say in football. You need bodies out there, and you can get to know her. She's like sounds very talkative. Like it can get boring when you're painting. I feel like this could work.
Erica with a K. Come on over. You can crash in my childhood bunk bed that is still in place.
Meet my mom after we went on one date.
Meet my mother after one date and sleep in the same room as me and my brother, all in separate beds.
See, I love it. And what's funny, the vibe I get from her, because she seems so outgoing and ready for anything, I think she'd do it.
Maybe. She's a lot of fun. And she sent a lot of content from Europe. I mean, she and her family had a blast. But we haven't talked on the phone in over 2 weeks. So it's like one of those things that's I'm just so focused on what I have right now. And I'm not stressing about it. And we'll see how the chips fall.
All right. Just saying, you could focus on women and painting your mom's house at the same time.
Sarah's like, is he ever going to get a girlfriend? Hopefully one day. Hopefully one day. So,
all right.
We appreciate all you guys.
Well, of course, we go long again today. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do this.
Well, we got our live up to over 1,800, which is nice for mid-July prior to training camp. So
yeah,
we appreciate you guys for dropping by. As always, if you haven't already done so, like the video if you enjoyed the content, subscribe for daily content if you haven't already done so. You hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when our daily streams go live, which is 12 noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. We've really been enjoying the new format. We hope that you have as well. You can email us at BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. You can visit all the show notes if you want to support our brand sponsor, Mantis Sleep. Get yourself a sleep mask. If you want to join the Patreon community, you can do all that and more in the show notes. So for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back with you in under 23 hours from now. We hope to see you then. Appreciate you guys.